This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. What makes up a good website? It's a great question, one that we're going to answer today with my guest, a returning guest, CEO of Ugly Mug Marketing, Wayne Mullins. I bring Wayne back on the show because he knows what he's talking about, and his company has developed over 700 websites for a variety of different clients, and he has deep insights into what it takes to construct a successful website that attracts the right people with the right projects to your company. We're going to go through a step-by-step formula that is very simple to understand, yet it's not easy to execute. So the execution will be absolutely essential. But today, in this podcast episode, you will get that formula. You will be able to see how that relates to what your website currently is like, and you'll be able to put together an action plan to make some progress. So enjoy my conversation with Wayne, and if you'd like to share this with other people, I would really appreciate it. Share the interview, and also give us a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening to Construction Genius today. Wayne, welcome to Construction Genius again.
Eric, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
The reason I'm having you back on is because I appreciate the clarity that you bring to the often murky world of marketing. And I'd like to ask you this question. Why is it that people's websites don't work for them?
That's a $1 million question, Eric. So when we think of a website working, there's really two things we need to think about. One is the technical side. Does the website actually run? Can it, be pulled up on a phone? Does it look great on a tablet? All those questions. Does it, quote unquote, work? But the reality is most websites work in the technical sense. The other side of this equation, though, is does it work for what it was intended to do, which is actually help you attract new clients, right? That's what the goal of a website is. It is a piece, it's a tool in your marketing toolbox. And the sad reality is most websites simply don't do that job. They don't help generate leads. They don't help bring clientele in.
Okay. If I'm a contractor, and let's say I'm working on projects that are anywhere from 1 million to hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, and I'm thinking, is my website really a tool to engage with people? It's not like Amazon where they're going to, click here now to purchase a $1 million construction contract. So give me some insights about how a company like that should really be viewing the conversion journey that someone might go on as they come to your website.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is this: we live in a world where no matter what you buy, so if you're looking to go, buy a new pair of jeans, if you're whatever it is you're looking to go do, one of the places you're going to turn to this magical thing called Google, and you are going to Google the name of something that somebody recommended to you, right? You're going to go see what you can dig up, what can you find that either validates or invalidates what you believe to be true about this company, this organization. So what I would say is this, that if nothing else, your website, the presence you have on the web should not detract, it should not distract from your reputation. So if your web presence is not in line with your values, if it's not in alignment with the reputation that you have in the marketplace. In other words, you have a reputation for phenomenal quality. You have a reputation for attention to detail. And then someone pulls up your website and there's typos all over it, or the pictures are all fuzzy and grainy. You're miscommunicating what the marketplace wants to believe. What you're trying to tell the marketplace is we stand for high quality. We're attention to detail. but then what I'm seeing isn't matching that. So that's why it's very important that we pay attention to this tool in our toolbox, because although it may not be the thing, it may not be the place, right, where our work comes from, it is certainly a tool that, when put together well, will help build our case. It will help build that trust in our company.
Excellent. Now you've helped many, many people put together these types of websites in a variety of different industries. Is there a particular approach that you use when you're engaging with a company to help them get that clarity on their website and achieve their goals?
Absolutely, Eric. So just for context, for anybody listening, to date, we've built well over 700 custom websites. And when I say custom, what that means is we literally start with a pen and paper. We start there. We don't go find a template. We don't go find, the coolest new design out there and copy that or buy the framework for that. We literally start with the scrap sheet of paper. And here's what the approach we like to take when we begin this process. When you think of your website, if your website's not producing the results that you think it should, or if you're going to rebuild a website, this is the formula that you need to remember. And it's very simple. I want you to look at your watch or look at a clock, find the time right now.
Yep.
All right. Take a second and do that. Now,
Yep.
What I want you to do is I want you to look at your watch. If you've got the old analog type, I want you to look at where the minute hand, the hour hand would be if it were 3:53 p.m.
Okay.
3:53 p.m.
Okay.
That is the magic formula right there. So if you don't mind, I will walk through briefly what that magic formula is.
Okay, great. Let's do it. 3:53 p.m.
3:53 p.m. All right. So the first three is this. In today's world, science now shows, believe it or not, science shows that goldfish have longer attention spans than humans. Hey, I don't know how they test this, but that's the rumor. So what we know to be true on a website is you've only got 3 seconds to make that first impression. And that is why it's so important to pay a ton of attention to what is, quote unquote, above the fold. In other words, when your web page loads, before anyone scrolls, that's above the fold. You've got 3 seconds to either validate or invalidate the messaging that you've been putting out into the marketplace. Crucial, crucial, crucial. What's above the fold? The first thing people see matters a lot. That's the first three. Okay. Right? So 3, the 5 is what we would call the critical 5. Now, it doesn't matter if your web page is 1 page long, if it's 300 pages long, you're going to want to ask yourself these critical 5 questions about every single page on your website, every single page. And this is how we approach building a website. It's that important. So critical 5 are this. First of all, we want to ask, who is here? Not who's, quote unquote, on your website, but who is specifically on this page on your website.
Can you give me an example?
Absolutely. So when people come to your homepage, right, they are looking to get somewhere. We like to refer to the homepage as an airport terminal. It's the hub. It's not designed to keep people there. It's designed to help people get to their gate as quickly and efficiently as possible, right? Because the gate is where the transaction takes place. The gate is where there's other interaction that takes place. And so your homepage is the gate. Now, the person who lands on your homepage is going to be a different person than the person on your about page. And the person on your contact page is going to be a different person than was on the about page. And what I mean by that is, sure, it could be the same person, but as they move through your site, their mindset is in a different place. As they read more about your company, hopefully, if your page is designed well, you're building trust with them, right? They're starting to like you more. There's maybe some social proof kind of interspersed throughout there that builds your credibility. So their mindset is now different than when they were just on the homepage. Now, let's just say they go from the about page to the contact page. Again, we're in a different mindset. We're a quote unquote different person at this point in the process.
Okay. Excellent. So that first question then is, who is here? What is the second question?
Who is here? The next question is simply this: what do we want them to do? What is it that we want them to do? And it's very important that you get clear page by page. page by page, right? So what we want someone to do on the about page is going to be different than what we want somebody to do on our previous projects page. That's going to be different than somebody who's on our contact page, right? The what is going to be different. And so the next one in the critical 5 is, after what do we want them to do? It's how do we want them to do that thing, right? So is it click on something? Is it watch a video? Is it fill out a form? What is it that we actually want them to do on that page? Is it we want them to go from the about page to then look at our previous projects, right? We want to think through, what is it that we want them to do? And then the next one in the critical 5 is, when do we want them to do this thing? Now, the natural tendencies, we think, oh, it's immediate, right? We want people to immediately do these things. But when you step back and you think of your website as a marketing tool, we realize that we don't necessarily want people to do these things immediately, right? We want to build trust. We want to build further engagement before they pick up the phone and begin calling, asking a million questions, right? So we want to lead them through this process. This is a sales tool. Your website's a sales tool. And we want to use it as such. So we want to kind of lead them. We want to answer the question as to when we want them to take that action.
Can I ask you a question about that? When you said that, what popped into my mind was this idea of filter. So how can you set your website up well so it actually filters the right people to contact you and filters out the wrong people, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a great question, Eric. It's not a simple answer, but I'll give you just a few things that help automatically filter on your website. So one is messaging, and I'll talk about that in just a second, but messaging is so critically important. So if you only do projects that are, 300 million and up, like, your messaging needs to make sure you're communicating in that way. So you're not getting a bunch of inquiries for people doing, $5 and $10 million projects. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of their time. Right. So messaging is important. And part of messaging is both the content, the words used, as well as the images that are used on the page.
Okay. Excellent. So we started off then, who is here? What do we want them to do? How do we want them to do it? When do we want them to do it? And what's number 5?
Number 5 is this. This is the money one right here, Eric. If you leave this with nothing else, if you get this one thing, it will not only change the way you approach your website, but it will literally change the way you approach all of your marketing. And that is simply, why should they do what you want them to do? Not from your perspective, right? We know that you think your company is great. We know that you have a great reputation. We know that we have, quote unquote, the best team in the business, right? But why should they, from their perspective, take the action that you want them to take? So it's really about getting into their minds. It's about understanding their pains. It's about understanding their desires. So understanding why, not from your perspective, because we know that one already, but from their perspective. It's the most important question.
So please let me ask you this. How do you figure out number 5 then? How do you figure that out, what you just said?
So figuring out number 5, the problem is we don't take the time to figure it out. That's number 1. Right. We make assumptions that we already know our customers, that we already understand our customers. The way that you do that is, again, we use what's called a customer avatar. We build out a customer avatar. Yep. And we want to know everything about them. We want to know what keeps them up at night. We want to know what brings them joy. We want to know about their family. We want to know about their kids, their grandkids, all of those things, because what that helps us do, it helps us see through their lens. It helps us see through their eyes. Yep. We become so, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we become so jaded. Our view becomes so jaded because we do what we do every day. It's so tough to flip the switch and be on the other side of that equation, or on the other side of that view, so to speak.
How do I find that out then? Does that mean I've got to pick up the phone and talk to them, or what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, the best way to do that is, quote unquote, knee to knee, sitting across the table from someone, knees touching, and getting to know them. Everyone's a little bit different in this. Some people tend to be, I'm this way, more just solely focused on business. So it takes very intentional efforts on my part to lean into this other side, to lean into the more personal side of this. Again, I've said this before, but people don't do business with businesses. People do business with other people. And we lose sight of that.
Someone's coming to my website and they're looking for construction services. Maybe it's whoever they are, but how do I communicate that personal aspect of it through my website in such a way that I maintain my professionalism, and yet still come across genuinely and directly to that person, to my ideal client, let's say?
So I've got the answer to that, or what I think is the answer to that, but it's coming up in our 353 PM formula. So I don't want
cool.
You're jumping ahead of us here, Eric. You're jumping
All right,
ahead.
sorry to do that. Okay. So we're at the point where you've described the 3 seconds. We've done the critical 5. Anything else you want to say about the critical 5 before we move on there?
Nope, that's it. The critical 5, again, it sounds like a ton of work. But what I can tell you is this: if you want your website to work for you, you have to work for it initially.
Yes.
So if you want your website to work for you in the long run, you have to work for it initially. The critical 5 is work, no doubt about it. It's work, but it's worth it. It's an investment.
Excellent. Yeah. And I think you say it very well. It is work. And unfortunately, that's why some people don't do it, because I do think, though, they do need someone like yourself, someone who's an expert in marketing, to kind of hold their hand through this, to help them get through the process, because it does seem so overwhelming, particularly if it's not your specialty.
I do agree. Sometimes just having that outside perspective allows us to see things that otherwise we would miss or take for granted and overlook. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's move on to the next part of the formula then. We've done the 3, we've done the 5. What's the next one?
So the last 3 is this. If you or I, Eric, were to go to any design school in this country or really anywhere in the world, they are going to teach you what are called the 3 C's of design. So all design contains 3 C's. So the first C of design is the composition. The composition. The next C of design is the contrast. And then the final one would be the content. The content. Now, if you or I were to go out to most designers out there, web designers, graphic designers out there, and we think about the way they approach things, the way that most of them are trained to approach things is they want to be creative, right? These are highly creative people. They want to design things that are different, that are unique, that are beautiful, things that stand out from the pack. Yep. So what they by default do is they begin their design process with the composition and the contrast. That's where they begin. But as a marketer, the most important thing about your website is the content.
Okay.
It's the content. So
and what do you mean by the content specifically?
Content specifically would be the words and the images that are used to convey your message.
Okay. Words and images to convey message. And then tell me what you mean by composition.
Yep. So the composition, again, is going to be the structure of the piece. So to put it in kind of building terms, that would be the architectural blueprints. That would be the schematics, right? Excellent. That's the composition of the piece. The contrast would be what materials are we going to use that are going to add some contrasting elements. So is the outside going to be brick? Is it going to be metal? Is it going to be stone? Those are going to be contrasting elements. Contrast would be paint colors inside.
Right.
Is it carpet? Is it hardwood? Those are going to be some contrast, right? The coloring.
And why is that important on a website?
The contrast is important because it's going to give the website depth. It's going to give the website a certain feel, so to speak, right? So websites have a certain feel to them, and that's often picked up, that's often determined by the contrast that is used on the page.
Okay. Excellent.
But what happens is when we go to a web designer or a graphic designer for a poster or a booklet, whatever it may be, they don't care about the content, right? They're going to lay out the layout first. They're going to do the composition first. They're going to figure out what colors, can they use? Will you allow them to use? They're going to use those colors. And then what they're going to do is say, okay, let me figure out how do we squeeze in the content that you've given us now into what we've designed. It's backwards, right? It's backwards. We must first understand what's the message. How much space do we need for the message? Is it a paragraph? Is it a page? And then we must design. Our design must support the message, not the other way around.
Okay, so then how can I clarify my message? What do I do to get to that point where I'm solid on the content and it's not just blah, 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 blah?
Yeah, the way to get solid on the content, the way to take all of the jargon, right? Because in indie industry, myself included, we get so hung up on using these terms and these words that mean a lot to us, but mean nothing to everyone else out there. What I would say is, and this is an approach we take, is we say, okay, draft out your content. We're going to take your content. We are then going to give this content to someone who has no clue who you are or what you do. And we are going to ask them to read the page, and we are going to ask them to rewrite what they think you're saying in 1 or 2 sentences. Interesting. Okay, so can I just give you a little pushback on that? Absolutely.
So I'm writing a blog post or an email to my list, and I will use terms and jargon that I know they understand. And I do that. Part of the reason I do that is to establish credibility with them. And so in my mind, if I was to take that and to give it to somebody else and ask that test that you just said, they may not understand all the jargon, even though it's not even that technical. So can you help me with that part?
Yeah, as a general rule of thumb, this is what I would say to you. So my counter would be this: you're writing, regardless of the niche or the industry that you're writing for. So in this case, we're talking about construction. Right. It should be written at about a 7th grade level.
Okay.
About a 7th grade level. So all you have to do is Google, I forget the exact phrase, but basically, what level is this writing at? There's free tools out there. You paste it in, it will tell you. Because again, we speak in certain ways, even within the industry, that may be unique to the jargon that you use, the words that you use, right? We want to boil it down to its simplest form. It's not necessarily about removing words that are important. It's about making what was a page into a sentence or 2 so that it's crystal clear that the message is being communicated.
Okay, so you have someone draft out their content and then have another person who doesn't know anything about the industry take a look at that and see if they can summarize it.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Now, we're not using, that doesn't mean we're going to take whoever this random person is and we're going to take their content and drop it in. Right. We're going to use that to help refine the way we looked at the content. We're going to use their feedback to help us say, okay, I overstated this by way too much, right? I went on way too long about whatever this was. Here's how I can condense this down to its purest, simplest form. So here's, if you want to go study this,
sure,
go study what Apple does.
Right.
Pull up their website, look at the way they communicate. They're communicating very technical things.
Yes.
Megabytes of RAM and gigabytes of RAM. And I don't even know all the things they're communicating, but they're able to break it down in such a way that a layman can understand it. Now, if you keep diving in, you can get all those big fancy words. You can find out the hertz and the retina display and all these things. It's all there, but they communicate in such a way that if that's not important to you, it disappears, so to speak. It's not so long and so heavy that you have to weed through it to figure out what speaks to you.
So does that mean that that the initial, from a content perspective, what they see initially is fairly rudimentary, but then they have the option to dive deeper if they want to?
It's exactly it. That is exactly right, Eric. It goes back to the airport terminal analogy, right? We want to get people as quickly as possible to the details that they're after.
I see. Okay. So okay, good. You said that well. Okay. So 3:53 p.m. So the above the fold, the first 3 seconds is critical. And then those 5 critical questions that you had, and then the 3 C's of design. Okay. So in the last 20 minutes, we've been chatting. I know some people are Googling their own websites. They're looking at what they've got. They're thinking about what you're saying. And they're like, man, there's just this huge gap here. Okay. So what can I do? What are the first steps you would say to someone? Hey, listen, this is the first thing you need to focus on to begin the journey to make your website more attractive to the people that you're looking to attract.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me jump back one second and then I'll come back forward. So
please.
The end of our 353 quote unquote formula is this. It's the PM at the end.
Oh, okay. And okay. Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is going to circle back to your question earlier.
Yeah.
P stands for a picture is worth 1,000 words. A picture is worth 1,000 words. What that means is you need to hire a professional photographer. You don't need to have your cousin's nephew come out with their iPhone. You don't need to have your foreman on the project running around with their smartphone snapping pictures. You need a professional photographer because a picture is worth 1,000 words. Don't forget it. Like I can't stress that enough. Picture's worth 1,000 words. Now the M in 353 PM is that it's important to remember that your website is merely a means to an end. It's not this thing that, quote unquote, if we build it, they will come, right? It's merely a tool. It's a means to an end. So it's a tool in our toolbox. We want to make sure that that tool is useful and it's serving us well in its capacity, right? We shouldn't expect things of this tool that it can't do, right? It can't perform. So that's the 353. So now I'm gonna jump all the way back to this last question of where do I begin? This is where I would begin. Number one is I would have someone, again, an outsider who doesn't really know you, doesn't really know your business, your industry even, pull up your website in front of you and bring up the first words, adjectives that come to mind. What do they believe to be true about this company based on what they see? Like what comes to mind? Does it look cheap? Does it look expensive? Does it look, do they pay attention to detail? Does it look outdated? Does it look modern? What are the words they would use to describe the company behind that website? Because what happens when you do that is, again, it separates this thing called a website from what it's actually doing, which is communicating something. It's either validating something or it's invalidating something. And so, again, it's a wonderful litmus test. Like, bring somebody in, pull somebody off the street. One of the things that we've done and we do on a fairly regular basis is we will go to places where our clients' ideal audience congregate. So back pre-COVID, for example, I'll use just a random example. We were building a website for a cattle rancher.
Sure.
So we went to a cattle auction. And we brought some web concepts printed out. And we went around and said, we're going to show you a few things here. And we want you to tell us which of these is your favorite, which speaks to you, and why. And so we got out there amongst the customers to really understand what resonated with them, what communicated with them. Right?
Interesting. Okay. Excellent. So in summary here, I know my website isn't doing what it needs to do. Perhaps I'm thinking about a redesign. What should I stay focused on in terms of how long this is going to take and what my final experience or my final outcome should be?
My answer is going to be very similar to construction because something here is being built, right? And as we know with construction, it often takes longer than we anticipated, right? I mean, that's the reality of it. Because as you go through the process, most people don't know what they want until they see what they don't want.
Okay.
Right. I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate to that. If you think about your customers, your clientele, they often don't know what they want until they see something, quote unquote, on the wall, the way the finish looks, et cetera. And then they say, no, that's not what I want. The same thing is true with your website as you begin going through this process. For us, a typical website for us is going to take about 8 to 12 weeks to complete from start to finish.
Okay. Excellent.
Now, we've got some quicker than that, and we've got some that are much longer than that, but that's going to be a rough time frame to think about. So you think about a quarter on a calendar, 3-month period is kind of what you want to think in the back of your head.
Okay. Right. So 90 days. Excellent. Okay. Awesome. All right, Wayne, please remind us where we can get in contact with you if we'd like to regarding help with website design and all these kinds of things we've talked about.
Sure, Eric. The simplest place is just on our website. That's just uglymugmarketing.com. And there we've got links to our social channels, email addresses, phone numbers, and all that kind of stuff.
Excellent. Excellent. And are there examples of websites that you've built that they can take a look at and all that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. Yeah. You can click around there. We've got several on there that we've built. You can click through and take a look at them, how they function, what they look like, et cetera.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wayne, once again, thank you for joining me here today. And I appreciate you giving us some real detailed and practical advice on how to improve your website. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Eric. Enjoyed our time together.
Awesome. Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Have you ever wished that your meetings at work were more effective? I've developed a format to help construction companies go from a blank piece of paper to unanimous agreement on how to solve their toughest challenges in less than 37 minutes. The format's called Kick-Ass Meetings, and you can download a free report that teaches you how to run meetings using that framework. Just go to my website, constructiongenius.com/KAM. That's K as in kangaroo, A as in apple, M as in Mary. You can download that free report, learn how to run effective meetings that kick ass and get stuff done for you and your company. Thanks again for listening to Construction Genius. Check out that report. Give me any feedback that you'd like on this episode. I value any feedback that you give me, so feel free to shoot me an email, go to my website, contact me via the website constructiongenius.com/contact. Thanks again for listening. Have a terrific day.